State Human Rights Commission for the year 2021. Welcome, everybody. And for those of you that weren't on earlier, we got the Ginger update, and she seems to be doing pretty good. She's waving her hand. So,
yeah, Sylvia, I just want to thank everyone for their prayers. I feel good. I still have a little fatigue, and I don't have my taste and smell back yet, but I remember how food tastes, and I'm still cooking and eating and all. But I'm very thankful that my condition was very light, and this stuff is so real, it's kind of crazy. And Tommy will appreciate this a lot because the stigma from having this has been pretty painful for a lot of people who are uninformed, and they're also not following guidelines. So that part is real, and it's our new reality. It's pretty bizarre, but I'm glad to see all of you, and thank you for your prayers.
you're so welcome. Before everybody came on, I said Stacy was interviewed on television about their new HR system. Stacy, did you want to say anything about your HR system and your interview? She's muted.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Stacy. You're unmuted, but
can you hear me now?
yes, we can.
I feel like a really bad Verizon commercial every time I use WebEx. So the city has launched a new 1-800 number, or it's also a website that employees can go to if they have concerns related to workplace issues, bullying, harassment, poor treatment, things of that nature. The system is called Respect, and it's encouraging folks to report things so we can, move forward together and make changes to how we treat one another and how we talk to one another. If you want to look at it, you can see it at vbrespect.com. So we had a great IT person help us purchase a webpage, a landing page, so that it looked exactly like we wanted it to look. We did have our first entry into the system since I talked to the media the other day. So we're glad to bring this forward. This is something we've been working on for a couple of years, and we're glad it's out there, and hopefully it won't get much use, but if it's needed, then we want folks to absolutely use it.
Okay, I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Aberman. Commissioner Aberman, your mic is open.
Thank you. Stacy, do you mind putting the link that you're talking about on the chat box? Because, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Exactly. Yeah, we got some. I think there's some more questions about this new system for Stacy. But before we get to that, I just want to go ahead and do roll call quickly. So just once again, I'm going to call your name and just state that you are present. Commissioner Aberman. Thank you. Commissioner White.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Heseltine.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Cadet. Commissioner Cadet, I'm having an issue unmuting you. Can you unmute yourself? Commissioner Cadet, are you still with us? Okay, I'm going to check back with him. He may have gotten kicked off and the system's not catching up. Commissioner Rencio?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
I'm here.
Thank you. Vice Chair Jenkott?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Mancall?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Gunn?
I'm here.
Thank you. Commissioner Barnsworth?
I'm here.
Thank you. Commissioner Rivera?
I'm here.
Thank you. Commissioner Stevens?
Here.
Thank you. And Chair Nair Strickland?
I'm present.
Thank you. Commissioner Stanley?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Kubine?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Thank you. And Commissioners Zoberman? Commissioner Zoberman?
Yes, present.
Thank you. And let me check and see if Commissioner Khaled, can you?
Yes, here. Sorry,
Okay.
I stepped away for a second. Sorry.
Great. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Khaled. Okay, roll call. That makes roll call complete. I think Commissioner Stanley had her hand up. She had a question for the new respect system. Commissioner Stanley, your mic is open.
Yes, thank you, Stacy. Did I hear you say there was also a 1-800 number?
Stacy, are you good?
Yes, now I am.
Okay.
I was trying to unmute myself. I forgot the rules. Yes. So there is a 1-800 number on the website that employees can call if they're not comfortable or don't want to use the portal. And so the 800 number is 1-800-869-8522. I'll put that in the chat as well. So they can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They get a live person in a call center. The company that we are working with is called Whistleblower Security. So it's their call center. They answer the phone with our script, and the employee provides the information that they would have keyed into the portal. And then I get an email saying, hey, you have a new concern, go look at it. It allows us to see when they come in, how it's tracked, what we've done, and when we close out that concern.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stacey. Thank you, Commissioner Stanley. Okay, I didn't see any other questions about the new system for HR.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Please raise your virtual hand if you would like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 10th meeting. Anyone? Okay, I have a virtual hand up by Vice Chair Gencott. Vice Chair Gencott, your mic is open.
Everyone got a little timid. I move that we approve the minutes from January 14th.
Oh, December 10th.
From December 10th.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Chair Gencott. Anyone want to second that motion? I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Amberman. Commissioner Amberman, your mic is now open.
I second the motion.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Amberman. Okay, any opposition, any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes from the December 10th, 2020 meeting? Anyone? Let me check. Commissioner Zoberman?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I don't see any virtual hands on any discussion or opposition of the motion to approve the minutes from the December 10th, 2020 meeting. Therefore, I'm going to do a roll call vote, starting with Commissioner White.
Approved.
Thank you. Commissioner Amberman? Oh, Commissioner Amberman? Don't forget, allow me to unmute yourself so we're not double clicking. Oh, I think we lost her. Oh, maybe, are you back, Commissioner Amberman? Okay, Commissioner Amberman, if you can hear me. Okay, there you are. Commissioner Amberman, your vote for approval of the minutes?
Yes,
I think we might be, okay, thank you. Commissioner Heseltine?
Back on my meeting. I'll text you. Okay.
Commissioner Heseltine?
approve, yes. Approve.
Oh, yeah, approved.
Commissioner Khaled?
Approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Arencia?
Approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
Approve.
Thank you. Vice Chair Gencott?
Approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Mancall?
Approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Gunn?
Approved.
Thank you. Commissioner Burnsworth?
Approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Rivera?
Approved.
Thank you. Commissioner Stevens?
Approved.
Thank you. Chair Nair Strickland?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stanley?
Approved.
Thank you. Commissioner Cubine?
Approved.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson?
Approved.
Thank you. And Commissioner Zilberman?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we have 17, by a vote of 17 to 0, the minutes from the December 10th, 2020 meeting were approved.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Before we go into the presentation, and since we're kind of doing everything up front, I'm not sure if we'll have a citizen's remark at the end or not, but I understand today is Francis's birthday. Is that right, Francis? Just shake your head. Yay. And
Happy birthday. As an update, right, as of right now, no citizens have joined the meeting.
Okay, cool. Well, maybe we'll get a chance to speak afterwards. And right now, I think the lovely caller, Lieutenant Shelley, has a presentation for us.
Yes, and Lieutenant Meister, I just gave you presentation permission, so you should be able to share your presentation now.
All right, can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right, I think we're up and running. Everybody good?
We can all see it, yes.
Okay, great. So we gave this presentation a few months ago to several members of the HRC, and what we wanted to do is have the opportunity to represent the information that we gathered and we presented a few months ago, and then update you on some of the things and the tasks and the responsibilities that we found that we needed to jump in front of. And we wanted to update you on some of the things that we've been doing stemming from the information that we gathered from this report. So as many of you are aware, we had 3 separate meetings with some of the minority officers in the police department. And the idea behind these meetings was to gather information from the people, the stakeholders of the department, which are the officers, in looking at different ways that we can generate more interest and more diversity at the recruiting level. The great thing, and you'll see through the presentation, is not only did we come up with some great ideas and some tasks that we can put forth and put into motion to generate some more interest at that recruiting level, but we also uncovered some internal things that we needed to look at and we're moving forward on as well. So with regards to the 3 meetings, we sent out over 120 invitations to minority officers. And this included a wide breadth of minority groups, not just African American, but we looked at our Asian officers, Latino officers, Pacific Islanders, and LGBTQ. And we gave them 3 separate dates because obviously officers are very busy with days off and leave. We wanted to give them ample opportunity to come in and have a voice and have a seat at the table to express concerns and give their ideas. So as you can see in this presentation, we had 3 separate dates. And during those dates, we had approximately 30 officers from various ranks, from lieutenant all the way down to officers with just a couple months on the street. And it really, the people who attended came from various units as well. So we had a pretty good variety of officers that decided to attend the meetings. So one of the things we wanted to do was we wanted to make it as neutral as possible because we did have some higher ranking people in the meetings. So we utilized the STIR office to facilitate the conversation and to mediate and keep the conversation moving in the right direction. But some of the people that were in attendance were the movers and shakers of the department, so to speak. So we had Interim Chief Zucchero at the table. We had Captain Zelms, who at the time was with Professional Standards, or IA. We also had Captain Spivey from Professional Development and Training. I was in attendance. Lieutenant Scott Wichendall, you all know Lieutenant Scott Wichendall, he was in attendance. And we had our recruiting coordinator there. We had our applicant processing coordinator there. So a lot of the people that have, so to speak, skin in the game were at these meetings to make sure that we heard their concerns and we could actually take action on them. So what we asked them to do was identify, like I said earlier, some of the challenges and provide ideas and recommendations for recruiting and moving forward in the minority communities. We really wanted to encourage that open discussion, that open dialogue, and we wanted them to be honest and candid with us. So the conversations kind of naturally began at the recruiting level with that topic, but of course it turned internal and we looked at some internal and external factors that were affecting our ability to be productive in recruiting in the minority communities. So with regards to some of the internal challenges, we saw some common themes across all three of the meetings. Of course, the hazards of the profession. Everybody knows that we're not out there selling ice cream. So, you know, there's an inherent danger to our job, and that was one of the number one things that they talked about was the inherent danger that goes along with wearing this badge. Again, low pay and benefits. I know everybody has heard that time and time again, and that has been a common theme with our inability to recruit at a higher level and retain at a higher level. And that bleeds right into our retention problems. And we're also looking at some of the uniform and grooming standards, which we'll get into a little bit later. That was one of the, so to speak, low-hanging fruit that we were able to jump on pretty quickly. We were looking at the actual recruiting program itself. So right now, there's a lack of incentive to participate in the recruiting program. When I say lack of incentive, there's somewhat of a freeze on paying overtime or comp time with regards to certain things, certain ancillary responsibilities within the department, and recruiting is one of them. That was cut into a little bit. Also, we were finding that some of the commands, because of short staffing and scheduling issues, were not allowing our normal recruiters to adjust their schedules to help us out with recruiting events. So we were having a hard time drawing some of these recruiters from the commands because of those issues. One of the things that popped up, which I found interesting and we were also able to jump on, was our police training officer program, or the PTO, or the field training, seemed to not be consistent with the organizational culture. So what I mean by that is when new officers are graduate from the academy and they go out on the street, what they're finding and what they highlighted was at the beginning, they're encouraged to engage with the community, get out there, get out of the car, get out and talk with the citizens in the community. But once they're cut loose on their own, we were finding that the officers were reverting back to just straight up law enforcement and were limiting themselves and getting out and engaging the community. Some of the external challenges that they identified, common themes were there's a negative perception of police within minority communities. And this is directly from the minority officers that were sitting in the room and talking about it. They talked about the challenges not only within their communities, but within their own family households. They talked about a lot of pushback with their own families, not wanting them to be police officers because of the negative stigma that comes along with being a police officer in the minority community. They said that there's a lack of connection with the community, and that, again, stems from that cultural perception, negative perceptions of the police. There's a distrust of the police, negative media attention that has become pervasive, especially over the last several months. And then something else that was highlighted was a historical or generational pass down of these negative perceptions. So you see grandfathers and fathers passing it down to their sons, which are passing it down to their sons, and so on and so forth. So we're really fighting against that generational pass down. And then that's where this common theme keeps popping up. You see that stigma of negativity about police in minority communities. And then they address some of the lack of positive interactions. And then there was a comment about DBPD is bad. And then, of course, we revert back to the cost of living in Virginia Beach. Some of the officers, based on their pay, have a hard time living within the city in which they're serving. So some of the recommendations that the officers came up with, and I thought these were great, really encouraging the SROs and the officers to get out there and have positive interactions with youth, with minority youth. And I think people have seen this time and time again, especially with Virginia Beach. We've gotten a lot better with getting out of the car and engaging with the community, especially with the kids in a positive way, to try to mitigate that generational pass down that was identified in these meetings. We're encouraging not only our traditional recruiting officers, but engaging our minority officers to participate in our recruiting program. We really want them to get out there and be the face of the department and talk about their concerns and their issues and engage the minority community to actively have them participate in becoming Virginia Beach police officers. Something that I'll talk about that we've also pushed forward is mentoring at a much earlier stage in our application process. And I don't want to get too much into it here because I get into it a little bit later in the presentation. But mentoring the people that are coming in early in the application process, and again, engaging our minority officers in becoming mentors at that early stage in the application process, and carrying that mentorship through the academy and once they're certified as police officers. And this requires us to be very selective of the officers that we're utilizing. We want to make sure that we have good champions of what our culture should be and where we want to go as an organization and the people that can drive this forward. We want to be selective in putting those people in the right position. Also, we want to support recruiting events with minority officers and in minority communities, and I'll engage in that a little bit later as well. One of the things that we really had to push forward was that conversation at the top, at the captain level and the deputy chief level and chief level, is authorizing schedule adjustments and possible overtime or comp time authorization for these recruiting events. Especially since we're having an issue with manpower, we're really going to have some incentivized programs in order to engage our officers in our recruiting program. And one of the other ways that we can do this is also offering points within our professional development program so they can move up in levels a little sooner by garnering points within that program as a recruiting officer. And like I said earlier, providing overtime or comp time opportunities. One of the things we talked about earlier, which is moving forward, is pushing the idea of this cadet program. This addresses and engages people that are interested in becoming police officers at a much earlier age. So we're not waiting for them to turn 18 and try to get them in the door and engaging them once they reach that magic number. We're engaging them at a much earlier age, trying to increase that interest and get them in the program, in the cadet program earlier so that they can have some exposure to police training, different programs within the city, and we can have them ready to put them in an academy as soon as they reach the age that they can apply. Also, we can focus our efforts towards military and people who are prior employment with either the city or police elsewhere, and we can get them in line to get into the next academy and not have them have to wait 6 months to get into an academy. Another idea that came out, which we thought was great, and as soon as we can get through COVID and start engaging in our scenario-based training again, is utilizing minority officers in scenario-based training. This increases that better understanding and appreciation of diversity and exposes people at that scenario-based level to different thought process or mindset, that type of thing, and really increases the quality of training with our scenario-based training. The grooming standards, like I said earlier, that was some low-hanging fruit. However, as you've probably seen, we have implemented the beard policy. So it's pretty stringent, but officers can have beards now as long as they follow certain guidelines within the policy. And they're also looking at the hair policy for females as well. And as stated earlier, one of the things I thought was interesting was the change and shift in mindset once an officer is certified, looking to get them engaged back into the community. And what we're trying to do is realign our philosophy and our priorities from what would traditionally be a law enforcement stance to more of a community engagement stance, and prioritize our CIT program our school resource officers and our PTO positions to make sure that the priority is engaging in the community and not just law enforcement. We really have to have a good balance in what we're doing and what our profession stands for. So what we're trying to do is encourage that coaching and mentoring and communication through that lens of community engagement and prioritizing that as something that we need to look more at from the first line supervisor level, at the annual evaluation level, at the awards level. That's really something that we're trying to sink our teeth into. We actively engage in improving our department's public image. We are constantly trying to get on social media, out in front of news media, any type of good work that the officers do. We're trying to get it out there and be as frequent as possible to be effective in countering or counteracting the negative media portrayal of police officers, trying to quote unquote personalize that badge. So in order to personalize the badge, the other thing we're trying to do is use non-uniformed police officers at our recruiting events. So we're realigning what the image would be from wearing a uniform at a recruiting event to maybe a polo with the BBPD information on it and a pair of khakis or something to that effect. So again, personalizing the badge, showing that we're real people as well. Promote the ride-along program. Problem is, again, with COVID, we've had to put a moratorium on some of these programs because we can't have that close interaction within the cars. But once that's lifted, again, we're going to re-engage the ride-along program and really actively recruit people to engage in the ride-along program and take advantage of that. We continue with the community surveys and utilize minority officers in those areas so that we can gain more trust within the minority communities. And again, seek out the opportunities to have those positive interactions and use discretion in the minor offenses. So if it's something that we can have a conversation, have them stop doing whatever they're doing, if we can move on from there and not actually have to make an arrest, that is definitely the philosophy that we're trying to move forward on, especially with our juvenile offenders. So this is some of the stuff that we've updated over the past, I want to say at least 1 month to 2 months. We've really, as a group here at Professional Development and Training, moved forward on a lot of things. And actually, we got some really good news from yesterday that I'll share with you as well. So we're still actively engaging in our recruiting task force and consortium. We had a meeting before the holidays. That was a great meeting. We got a lot of action items out of that and moving forward, not only with recruiting, but some of our internal processes with training. We have another meeting set up. We're going to again have to do it virtually, but what I've noticed is we have similar people engaging in these conversations, but we're having a lot of new faces at the table, which is great because it's bringing a lot of different diverse ideas to the table. The Cadet Program is still ongoing. The idea behind the program is in place. We've asked for the funding. We've asked for the approval to move forward. And right now that is way above my pay grade. It is sitting on somebody's desk across the street that has a lot more juice than I do. So that is still in the works. That's still a viable program. We're just waiting for the approval to move forward on that. So one of the things that we've really done a great job on, and when I say we, I mean my team, my recruiting team, my application process team, is we have revamped our application process. In saying that, we didn't change the requirements for somebody to get through the application process to get a seat in the academy. What we did was we realigned the schedule for which things happen. And in realigning some of the internal workings of the application process, we've been able to increase the number of people we've taking the police test by 47%. We actually have 92 people slated to take a police test on Saturday, and that hasn't happened in, I want to say, almost a decade. So we are really moving in a great direction, and I'm happy to say I don't have exact numbers on the people that are taking the test on Saturday, but I know that we have a good, diverse group that are coming in to take that test. So we're really moving forward in a great direction on that. So one of the things that we're looking to do is we want to get that buy-in from the applicant from an early stage in this process. So we've revamped our mindset to look at this as marketing versus recruiting. So we're marketing, we are selling ourselves to our applicants. And one of the ways that we want to do that is acquire and utilize a new client records management software program. This will help us track and engage applicants throughout the application process, but it also gives us the opportunity to keep them engaged through Q&A sessions, give them their mentor through this program. It really revamps the process itself so it's more streamlined. They can have online conversations with the recruiters or the officers within the office here. We will be sending out videos, workout videos, really engaging them through the whole process so we don't lose them. And if you'll see here on the right-hand side, we have a new QR code, BVBPD, apply now. And if you want to, I think you can do it. I tried it earlier, it worked. If you take your phone out and open up your camera and just aim it at that QR code, you don't have to take a picture, just aim it. It should take you right to our application page. So I'll leave that up there for 1 second. And somebody just said it worked for them. So what you'll see is this QR code. We have it printed everywhere we possibly can. It goes right to our application page. It's super streamlined. It's really easy for them to engage. We can put it on anything. We can put it on a business card. We can put it on a sticker. But what you'll see in the next slide is we've got 400 rolling billboards right now. So we've taken that QR code and we are putting it on every single one of the marked police cars that are on the street right now. So anybody who walks by one of our marked police cars can walk up, aim their camera at that, and go right to our application page. This was literally just implemented within the last couple of weeks. So what we're going to do is we're going to we'll continue to poll the people who take the test and find out where they learned about BVPD and where they decided to open up the application. And we're really interested to see how the QR codes make a difference in that. Some more action items. Thank you, Teresa, I appreciate it. Some more action items. We are heavily reliant on technology right now. So currently we have our in-service one in the works right now. Our morning session is being done via WebEx, just like we're doing right now. So all the officers are logging on, they're getting the classroom portion, and then they have time slots to show up and get their certification. So we're engaging in the social distancing, which is doing our best to not have cross-contamination. We also just had our 69th Recruit Academy graduation, and we did it totally virtual. And from all accounts, everybody I've talked to, it went off great, went off without a hitch, and everybody was really happy with how it happened. So what we'd like to do is when we get back to a normal recruit graduation process where everybody's in person, shaking hands, hugging, having a great time, we're also going to have the virtual option. So if you have family that are in California or somewhere else, they can watch as well. The other way we're utilizing technology is in recruiting. So we're utilizing not only online recruiting programs and recruiting events, but we're actively engaging with different colleges and organizations. For example, the pictures that you're seeing here, we did a virtual workout with SUNY John Jay College, which is one of the largest criminal justice colleges in the country. We did a virtual workout, and then we did an hour-long Q&A session afterwards. And we spoke with the facilitator from SUNY, and they advised that that was one of the most successful online recruiting programs that they had been involved with. So we're actively using this now. And we can also focus our recruiting strategies on our historically Black colleges, military, LGBTQ, by utilizing technology. And I'll get into that here coming up soon. So we are, again, like I said earlier, refocusing our mindset to not so much be recruiters for a police department, but marketing and selling a product. We are selling law enforcement. We are selling the law enforcement profession, and we are selling that Virginia Beach Police Department is the place to be to have that profession. So we are looking at, and some of you may already know this program, Salesforce. This is software that's being utilized by the city currently, and it's supported by our communications office, and Julie Hill is a huge proponent of Salesforce. She's been actively working with our recruiting coordinator to implement this program. And from what I understand, we may be getting the green light here soon to implement that Salesforce program. This will streamline our client records management system for all of our applicants. And it also gives us the opportunity to engage actively in a marketing program to target certain communities, especially our minority communities. And we're also, again, looking to give some incentivized and making our recruiting program more of an incentivized program by reintroducing overtime, comp time, or being able to adjust officers in their schedules. So after those 3 meetings that we had earlier from the officers, we identified several people within those meetings that set themselves apart from their counterparts and proved to be leaders amongst their peers. So we had an informal leaders meeting, 10 people from different units from varying ranks were engaged in a follow-up conversation about the action items we've been talking about and some of the ideas that came out of those meetings. They all want to be actively involved in the recruiting and development program. And we have engaged them in being mentors to our recruits at a very early stage, actually in the application stage, to mentor them and guide them through the application process so that we can have more people in the seats in the Recruit Academy, more quality and ready to go people in the Recruit Academy when they're ready to start. And we actually just sent that email out the other day. We're actively engaging these members to have them assigned to become mentors. And like I said, we've got 92 people signed up to take the test. So we're trying to get 92 people mentors right now. That's a pretty heavy lift, but we're moving forward with it. Another idea that came out that we're looking to move forward with is providing our conditional hire letter at a different point within the process. So let me explain that a little bit. So once you get past a certain point in our application process, you will be given a conditional letter of hire. That conditional letter of hire states as long as you pass the next couple of requirements, you will receive a letter of employment from the Virginia Beach Police Department or from the city of Virginia Beach. What we found is a lot of our counterparts are providing that conditional letter of hire earlier in their application process, which makes people believe that they are further along in the process than they actually are. So it's engaging them and getting buy-in earlier in the process. So what we're looking to do is once an applicant passes the written exam and they provide their prehistory question or prior history questionnaire after the written test, we will give them a conditional letter of hire. That conditional letter of hire will have all of the responsibilities they're still required to meet in order to become recruits in the academy. It's just it's coming at an earlier stage in the application process, and we really think that's going to have a huge impact on keeping people getting people in the door and keeping them in the door and getting them in the seats for the academy. So what's next? So one of the things we wanted to do, and this is one of the first time we've done this, is we had our recruiting officer go into what is now the 69th Academy. They just graduated and polled the academy on what we can do better. What did they like about the process? What can we do better? Where can we engage the community at different levels? And if they have any ideas or input on how we can have a better process. A couple of ideas came out of that. One of the biggest ideas, and I was surprised about this, was the recruits at the time, now officers, were very forthright in telling us that our physical assessment test during our application process was in no way indicative of what they were going to face in the academy. So we're aware of that. We have taken steps to try to get people more prepared before they get into the doors of the academy physically, because we know not only through personal experience, but through research, if they can be in physical shape, physically fit when they come in the door, that will weave itself through all of the other requirements that they're going to face and the other tasks that they're going to face in the academy in order to graduate. It affects driving, it affects shooting, it affects decision making. It really weaves itself throughout the academy. So we're trying to do a better job on the front end to get them prepared. The second thing that we're doing is, and I mentioned this earlier, is we're actively assigning mentors for the upcoming 70th Academy. So right now we are slated to have 38 people. We have, 42 people set for the 70th Academy, and 4 of them are prior law enforcement. So they are going to be certified officers coming in. So we'll actually have 38 people in the academy coming in for the 70th Academy, which starts on January 28th. Those people are actively being assigned mentors as we speak to make sure that they are engaged and they are prepared for the academy. And as I stated earlier, we're working with the major leadership team to acquire the client records management system known as Salesforce. And we really believe once we implement Salesforce and we get it up and running, it's going to open up opportunities and open up doors for us that we never even knew existed. And we're really going to be able to engage with their minority communities at a much lower level. There's lower level conversations that we need to have. We can have those conversations quicker, and we can engage a larger group with one fell swoop of opening up, a targeted marketing concept within that community. So we're pretty excited. We hope we get the approval for that, and we're hoping that we can get that up and running soon. So I know I said a lot of things, and I appreciate everybody holding their questions for now. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right. If you have any questions for Lieutenant Meister, please raise your virtual hand. I see a virtual hand up by Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Anderson, your mic is open.
Yeah, hi, and thank you so much for that presentation. I love the QR codes. I think that is something that is super accessible to really everyone. I recently implemented something very similar at my job. So kudos to the department for just, being accessible and being very, very current with the times. I did have just a question about, I know you were talking about you all wanting to be a little bit more in the community and being engaged. And I just wanted to know, are there efforts to meet with some of the grassroots or local organizations, things of that nature? And I'll speak very candidly when I say that I've seen these efforts with police departments kind of around the country, and I feel like sometimes it comes off as possibly disingenuous in some ways. And I'm just wondering, what kind of efforts is the VBPD producing to make sure that those efforts are authentic and come from a genuine place, and also working with the community and not more so, hey, we're nice people, trust us, but really making those engagements very authentic and genuine.
Thank you. And I think that's a great question. And I absolutely agree. I think, the knee-jerk reaction of, okay, let's get out in the community. And like you said, hey, trust us, we're here, love the police. I think that would not work in other communities the way it works with Virginia Beach, because Virginia Beach has been doing these efforts for decades. We have been in the community. We have sat at the tables. We have had the hard conversations. Even with the HRC, we've sat and had the hard conversations. We've turned that lens inward to make vital changes where they needed to be made. And we're still doing that. And that's the great thing, is we consider ourselves a learning department. So even when we face tough times, when we come out on the other side of it, we look back and say, what can we learn from this and what can we do better? So I absolutely agree with what you're saying. So one of the things that we do and have done is, number one, we engage with the HRC. We engage with the Pastors Roundtable. These are things we have done for years. We've opened up that discussion with the Minority Recruiting Task Force. So that's not actually, the majority of people that sit on that task force are not police officers. They're community members and citizens that want to see different things happen to make our recruiting efforts better and more engaged. I know myself, I'm one of 2 LGBT liaisons for the department. I work with Hampton Roads Pride very closely. I work with the LGBT Consortium, which, so, there are so many different programs that we're involved in, and not just a handful that I can just pick off the top of my head, but really where we're effective is that grassroots effort. What matters is when Police Officer Smith is patrolling a neighborhood and gets out of the car and stops and has a conversation.
Right.
That's not captured on Facebook. That's not captured on the media. And that happens every day, all the time. And I can't stress that enough. And that's why I'm so proud to be a Virginia Beach police officer, because these things have happened for years. And I love that about our department. But when I talked about that earlier, about that getting the younger officers back engaged with the community, we need to prioritize as a police department, not stats, not figures, not arrest numbers. That's not a priority. That's our number one job, is law enforcement. We all know that. We're police officers. Our number one job is law enforcement. But we are out in the community so much, and we are guardians of the community. That's our job.
Yes.
We are your guardians. So we need to reprioritize in our award ceremonies, our lower level awards, just peer-to-peer awards, engaging in musters, congratulating officers for getting out of the car and shaking somebody's hand or just having a conversation. That's where that grassroots effort really takes effect. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but
yes, no, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson, and thank you, Lieutenant Meister. I just want to take a moment to recognize that Councilman Bellucci has joined our meeting. Welcome, Councilman Bellucci. So anyone else have any questions for Lieutenant Meister? Please raise your virtual hand. Okay, Commissioner Stevens, I see your virtual hand up. Your mic is now open.
Yeah, the class that just graduated last week, what was the makeup of them, and what was the dropout rate that you had with that class?
Let me pull that up. I knew somebody would ask. Okay, so we started out with 48. However, that number also included certified officers. So those certified officers go through a shortened academy, and they're out on the street faster. We had a 52% graduation rate. Yeah, can't speak. But we graduated 25 people. We graduated just minority-wise, one Asian male. We graduated one Black male and two Black females. We graduated two Hispanic males. I'm sorry, it's on a spreadsheet, so I have to make sure I get my numbers correct. We graduated one person listed as other, so that could be a variety of things. It just depends on how they identify. And then we graduated 16 white males and 2 white females. So that was the makeup of the 69th Academy that just graduated.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Stevens. Commissioner Stanley, I see your virtual hand is up. Your mic is open.
Yes, Lieutenant Meister, thank you. Thanks, Mark, for that question, because that data is improving as far as minority stats. I want to really just take a second to commend the VBPD for the ongoing 4 years of At the Table in the Lake Edward community, in which we've been working hand in hand with some of these minority recruitment efforts. So things like putting the community recruitment events right into the community has, been one of the ways that that's been happening. To Commissioner Anderson's question, and the other thing is the paid cadet program that has really been lifted quite a few times at that table, and now it's on the table, and hope to see that funded, as well as the mentorship. That mentorship is very impressive. That's come from our table forever. So to see the Virginia Beach Police Department actually responding to these grassroots needs is really, really exciting. I did want to ask Lieutenant Meister just a couple questions about some of the things that have not yet been addressed, are like the minority retention rate. Is there any kind of exit interviews that have been established so that we can gather data on if people aren't staying with it, or if they're finding the culture of policing to be less than welcoming to minorities? Are we capturing that? The second thing is so there's a couple questions here, Lieutenant.
Let me write them down so I don't forget.
Okay, so that's the first one. And then the second was the SRO, the school resource officers. We've often said that the roles of those need to be absolutely revamped And so it looks like you all are kind of starting to look at that, meaning that they're more, relational and less law enforcement, even though they still have that authority, so that we can start to change the culture of how, police are looked at in the community. And that's a great big area that could be helped for marketing. And then the last one is the perception is reality. So generationally, there's a lot of stigma for, joining the law enforcement ranks. And are there some ideas coming out of these think tanks with some of the minority officers that are really committed to this, to, getting some tangible ideas about how we can reverse some of those? And I'd like to invite us to have some of that discussion at the police community roundtable.
Sure. So let me go most recent, or the last question first. Changing perception, especially at a generational level, is a monumental task. And I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but that is a huge undertaking. But one of the things that I think we as a department can do to address that is engaging in these different types of citizen police academies that we have. So I look at the Hispanic Latino police academy that we had. Well, it's because of COVID, it's been a little while, but that had a huge effect on generations of Hispanic and Latino citizens within Virginia Beach. And we learned so much about their views on police and their view on law enforcement. And we took that information that we gained through that academy and we've applied it to recruiting. And in doing that, the way we're doing that is having the conversation that with the older generations and waiting for that trickle down effect. So this is probably not something I'm going to see in my lifetime, but we're going to have to start with the older generations and working to regain trust and provide that legitimacy and that procedural justice at that higher level, that understanding and that trust at the higher level, the older generations, and work through that trickle down effect. And also making sure that when we recruit, we understand that we're not just recruiting the person, we're recruiting their family. So engaging them in a larger conversation, bringing the families to the orientation, bringing the families in to have a bigger conversation with what to expect. What is your son or daughter going to expect when they go into the police academy? How is this going to change them? How is this going to affect your life? So we need to really gain that trust at a bigger level. And by bringing the families in earlier within the application process, I think we'll have a ripple effect that it may not have a quantitative value to it, but I think eventually, maybe when I'm retired and gone and on my fishing boat, we may see that.
That's encouraging.
Absolutely. SROs. So right now it's difficult because obviously they're not in a school. However, prior to them being pulled out of the schools because of COVID, there was a huge push to change the mentality and the design of the SRO program. Our SRO program always relied heavily on that interaction, that engagement, and the relationships that the SROs built with not only the school administration, but with the students. What we've really done, though, is revamped our juvenile perspectives and how the SROs engage with the students. So again, and you hit the nail on the head, we're trying to pull the law enforcement part back some. It's still there. That's still why we're there. However, really push forward the engagement piece, the relationship building piece, again, the trust piece with the students, and giving them an outlet and a place that they can go and feel safe to have that conversation with the officer. So yes, there is a revamping, but that revamping's been going on for quite a while now. And finally, with the exit interviews, just for clarification, are you talking about exit interviews with recruits or officers who are leaving?
Oh.
Okay, so I don't have the information for the officers that are leaving. They have those exit interviews with their commanding officers when they leave, and they have it with human resources if they want to. And I'm not sure exactly what the conversation is on those exit interviews. I could absolutely find that out. However, with recruits, there's a variety of reasons why recruits decide to quit, or they have to be recycled into another academy, or they're removed from it. My dog's not in the office, I swear. But I know that I just took over as the training director for professional development training back in August. And I know that I've had several of those sit down conversations with minority recruits who decided to leave. We had an outstanding Black male who would have easily graduated with 69, the last class that just graduated. He would have been an excellent officer. His professional career leading up to this was in the mental health and social work arena. And when he went into some of the scenario-based training, he realized that he didn't want to be put in a position to have his personal safety at risk. And that's one of the reasons why we put them in scenario-based training, because that's a very big eye opener that it's not cops and robbers and it's not a game. This could, potentially be a life or death situation that you're faced with. And we see that a lot. A lot of the recruits, once they get into that scenario-based training, their eyes open, and that's where the light bulb goes on, and that might not be for them. So I had a 45-minute conversation with him, short of begging him to stay, because he is exactly the type of officer we want. He was very socially conscious, and he got it. He got the community engagement piece. He saw the big picture, but he was adamant that he did not want to put himself in harm's way in this job. So it's hard to keep people like that here, because you don't want to put them in a position where they feel unsafe and that type of thing. And from all accounts, he went back to social work and he's very happy. We have 2 Black females from the 69th Academy that failed our driving course. We put them in a fast track recycle, and they are in 70 now. So we got them training, we got them mentorship, we facilitated some physical agility things that they needed driving wasn't the only thing they were struggling on. They were struggling on a couple other things. So we made sure that we looked at it holistically and gave them guidance to be successful in 70. So we're doing everything we possibly can to not only get people in the door, but to keep them in the seats, because we need them and we want them. We want quality people. We want that inclusion and we want that diversity piece in our workforce.
Impressive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dominique, you're muted.
Sorry. I see virtual hands up, but I just want to take a moment to see if Commissioner Zoberman has to say anything, since he can't raise his virtual hand. So, Commissioner Zoberman, did you have anything to ask or say to Lieutenant Meister?
No, just want to thank the lieutenant for a great presentation. Very professional, very caring, very spirited. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi. I miss seeing your face.
Me too.
Thank you, Commissioner Zoberman. Okay, I see a virtual hand up by Commissioner Burnsworth. Commissioner Burnsworth, your mic is now open.
Thank you. I wanted to mention the school resource officers as well. I retired as a middle school principal 4 years ago in Plaza, which can be a rougher area of town by reputation. But because of our school resource officers, in the 4 years I was there, you could count the number of fights in our building on one hand, because of the relationship. And I credit so much to our school resource officer because of the relationship he built with our kids, because of the open communication that he had with our students. They didn't wait a second to come share stories or rumors that were or may or may not have been true, so that he could investigate and stop them before they started. So I think there are some amazing school resource officers out there who have really good ideas about relationship building, especially with students from low income and minority neighborhoods. That would be great for you to tap into and to pull those ideas. I can't say enough. And I say his name out loud all the time. Nick Gauk is an amazing school resource officer. And the other thing I wanted to ask or see if anybody's thought of, our NJRTC programs are huge in our school division. And I know they didn't happen overnight, but I'm wondering if anybody has thought about maybe doing a police department cadet program for credit a class that is a credit in our school division that might recruit students early, get them interested in law enforcement, and also build that partnership, that relationship with the school community. Because I know our TC programs do that.
I think that's a great idea. I think that's something that we could definitely look at. That would obviously be a bigger picture program that we'd have to implement. We'd have to bring a lot of different stakeholders to the table to see how that would work. But one of the things that the SROs do, and I'm sure you're aware of this, is they do teach the Virginia Rules program. So it talks about procedural justice and administrative justice for juveniles. But I'd like to see a piece that isn't just so focused on justice and legal and law, but more so that larger picture of civil service engagement and interest in police work. Absolutely. And I'd like to echo some thoughts about the SRO program. One of my best friends on the department is SRO here with Virginia Beach. And we were speaking the other day and he told me a story, and I'll make it very brief, but they had a student that had not logged on for their virtual schooling. I don't know what the platform was, but had not logged on one time in, I want to say he said it was over 2 months, had not logged on once. So I don't know how it fell through the cracks, but the school finally picked up on it and told the officer, we want you to go over there and arrest the mom. Literally said that. You need to go over there and arrest the mom. So my friend said, why don't we cool our jets? I will drive over there and have a conversation and find out what's going on. He took it upon himself to go over, found out that mom was working way more than she probably could to support her family. They did not have internet service. She did not have the ability to get her child logged on the way that needed to be logged on. And every time the child tried to log on, the internet service would drop. So he went above and beyond, got them updated hardware to have in the house to get her logged on, made contact with their internet service provider to help them get the internet service that they needed, and essentially solve the problem without taking any law enforcement action whatsoever. So when it's very frustrating to hear a push to have SROs removed from the school when I know how incredibly successful Virginia Beach Police Department's SRO program is. I think it's vital. I think it's a vital piece of our community engagement, and they are absolutely needed in the school. So I thank you. I thank you for your support in that.
Thank you, Commissioner Burnsworth. Thank you, Lieutenant Meister. Okay, just going to take a moment to welcome Regina. Hi, Regina. Okay, and I see a virtual hand up. Commissioner Burnsworth, I'm sorry. Did you have more to say? I see a virtual hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nope.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
I see a virtual hand up by Commissioner Heseltine. Commissioner Heseltine, your mic is now open.
Thank you. I'm going to try to talk fast before the guys start drilling again. Officer Meister, the presentation was fantastic, and it's wonderful to see that the way that you're promoting it as far as marketing versus recruiting, because that's going to be you're going to get the trickle down effect of everybody in the community just hearing more good things that the police department is doing. I have two questions. I'd like for you to elaborate, if possible, about the SRO program. I agree with Commissioner Burnsworth. My daughter, we had Officer DeMartini. I mean, and my daughter is now 35, and I can tell you he knew about her speeding ticket before I did, and probably saved her little life because he told me about it. So I think it's an excellent program. I know there's been a lot of talk about changing it, them not having guns on them, which I disagree with. But at some point, maybe not now, but I'd love to hear more about that, about how it is being revamped. My other question is, if I understood you correctly, you said that the academy started with 48, and then you ended up with a 52% graduation rate, correct?
Let me pull that back up for you.
And my specific question about that, is that consistent with what we see in other Hampton Roads cities? And is our proficiency going up, holding steady, or going down?
So that graduation rate is pretty much steady for historically for Virginia Beach Police Department. Okay. It's a little lower than usual. We had some we had some incidents in this particular academy. We had two students who were caught cheating twice. We're not going to allow that. So there were some instances in this academy that didn't occur in other academies, or recently in other academies. So we lost a few that we probably shouldn't have. That one black male recruit was an outlier. We did not see that coming in any way, shape, or form. But that graduation, I can't say it today, rate is fairly consistent for Virginia Beach. So it's difficult to compare to the other area academies because their academies are much smaller than ours. So a lot of times they may start out with 10, 15 recruits and graduate 10, or, you know, they may not lose the number that we lose because they start out much smaller. The difference is they also don't have the high level of expectations that we have. I know you have all heard this twice, maybe 3 times within the last couple of years because we've given this presentation a few times, but we require double the amount of hours that the Department of Criminal Justice requires. So we're at 960 hours that we require for our recruit academy. So it's a lengthy academy, but they get everything. And we ensure that we are turning out the best recruits we possibly can to be as successful as possible.
One last question then. Whenever they go into the academy, do they go on payroll at that time?
Yes. Once
good.
Employed with the city.
Okay. Good.
They're on the payroll.
Okay.
And once they graduate from the academy, they get a pay bump, and then once they're certified, they get a pay bump, and then they're in the professional development program at that point.
Good, great. And I think it's important also to point out in your further next presentations is that the way that you are not recycling, but you had these 2 deficiencies, and we're going to bring you back into the class of 70. And I think those have to be pointed toward graduation rates or something, some kind of metric, because that's important to know. So thank you again for a great presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, we call it fast tracking. So as long as there's no huge glaring issues and we feel that they're a viable candidate for the next academy, we fast track them. They're still required to have a criminal background check done, and I believe they have to have another polygraph, but don't hold me to that one. But I know they have to have a criminal background check done because they're outside of our system for a certain amount of months to get into the next academy.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hasseltine. Commissioner Anderson, I see your virtual hand is up. Did you have more to ask or say?
No, I thought I had taken that off.
Okay. No worries. No worries. All right. Thank you. I see a virtual hand up by Chair Neer Strickland. Chair Neer Strickland, your mic is open.
Again, great presentation. I wanted to follow up with the last academy that graduated. Someone called and reported to me that all of the African American cadets had resigned because of the unrest across the country. Obviously, that's not true. I wanted to ask, I have 2 questions, and that was, did you know of anyone who did resign because of the unrest? And secondly, there used to be a Citizens Academy, and with COVID, I think that needs to be part of our training as human rights commissioners. But is there any talk of making it virtual? Because it doesn't seem like anytime soon we're going to be able to gather together.
Yeah, I think the virtual training is going to become more of a mainstay, and we've gotten more adept, and we have really quickly gained a higher level skill set in employing virtual training. I highlighted a couple of things that we're doing already virtually, and that is absolutely a possibility, is making those academies a virtual platform. But I think you can all agree that you lose something on these virtual platforms when you don't have that face-to-face engagement, that one-on-one, the body language, talking to people, having those side conversations. That is lost, and we can look at pushing those academies through virtually, but there will be some skills and some conversations and some relationship building that's going to be lost. So it's a possibility. We haven't talked about it right now because I think everybody's walking around fingers crossed that we'll be able to get back to normal here within the next few months. I don't know if that's going to happen though. We're doing things to prepare ourselves and to steel ourselves that this is the norm for quite a while. So that is definitely a conversation that we can have to look at those citizens academies virtually. On the flip side, your earlier statement about any of the minority officers leaving because of civil unrest. So that was not a specific comment made in the exit interview. It was more of a personal, a need to have personal safety and to ensure their own personal safety. Actually, the one black male recruit that I talked about, I specifically asked that. I said, are you getting pressure from home? Are you getting pressure because of the civil unrest, that type of thing? And they flat out denied. They said, no, this is a choice that I made because of my eyes have been opened. So I don't have anything specific about the civil unrest. It is a topic of conversation. It's definitely a topic of conversation with the applicants and the recruits. But it was not a driving force in anybody, as far as I know, a driving force in anybody leaving.
Thank you. I know those are tough questions and you're always candid and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Nair Strickland. I see a virtual hand up by Commissioner Amberman. Commissioner Amberman, your mic is now open. Commissioner Amberman?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You're breaking up on us.
I also want to commend you for the innovative. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're breaking up on us a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why that is happening. I can hear everybody well. I wanted to ask you, at the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned the community engagement was a very important feature. And, you know, with the community, and I wanted to ask you if you can expand what type of incentives, and specifically, are there career advancement incentives as a way to incentivize that community engagement piece? And then the second idea is that, you know, I had conversations with chiefs of police from across Virginia, and some of them were sharing very unique ideas to kind of break the pattern in which the community see officers as just law enforcers and actually members of the community. And I remember that the chief of police from Norfolk shared that they had like ice cream days in which the police officers were, you know, in some neighborhoods and tried to approach the community by giving ice cream cones or you know, social situations like that. Can you tell me a little bit more if you are considering unique ideas so that maybe we can contribute on that? Thank you.
Sure, and I'll speak on my end from recruiting, but I know Captain Zelms is also on the WebEx, so I'll speak very quickly about the recruiting aspect, but if Captain Zelms can piggyback off of me with some of the larger conversations they're having outside of PD&T, that'd be great. So recruiting wise, in order to incentivize officers to become engaged with the recruiting in the minority communities, we're looking to, and I believe we've already done it, provide them with points towards their professional development program advancement. So levels 1 through 3 have money attached to them. So if we can move, or 4, if we can move them into those higher levels, they can receive a monetary incentive by moving up in the levels in the PDP. So that helps them gain those points. Also with the overtime and comp time, we're trying to reestablish that. But again, that's a conversation that's above my pay grade. We try to do our best to have the commands alter the schedules or adjust them for a more desirable day. So if they assist us on a Wednesday with a recruiting event, we try to allow them to adjust off on a Saturday so they have a little bit of a longer weekend. So we're trying to use some creative ideas to have our officers re-engaged in our recruiting program. But Captain Zelms, if you're on the line, do you have any conversation about the creative ideas?
Captain Zelms, your mic is open.
Thank you, everybody. Commissioner Ammerman, I was in the middle of typing a response to a question. So I believe you're asking what are some of our creative ideas to re-engage with community, and if you guys can help along in that process. Is that correct? Okay. So I think everybody knows that we're in the process of getting to know our new chief. He's been on the job for quite a few weeks now, but I'll say that one of his big strategies is community engagement, and that in the individual neighborhood level. One of his visions, so to speak, is to hopefully be able to roll out some neighborhood liaison officers and neighborhood liaison units so that we get back to policing on an individual neighborhood level and where the officers get to know the residents and the people who are in the community. So to that end, I think we're all looking forward to that, and that was actually something that he brought up in the recent budget proposals and presentations as a need that we have to re-engage. So we're looking forward to doing that. And some of the strategies, like Lieutenant Meister said, we've been doing a number of community-based efforts for years. And even though the reality is of staffing challenges, I think today we're 82 officers short, 82 vacancies short. So that can create certainly some challenges with patrol coverage and staffing, and then being able to have the free time to devote to the just getting out of the vehicle and going up and talking to people. But it's still definitely an effort. And so some of the chief's ideas towards that end with re-engaging our community policing efforts, re-engaging our community engagement unit. They're going to be maybe looking at some repurposing here in the very near future to help assist with that community liaison or neighborhood liaison program that we're going to do. But like with the ice cream idea and ice cream initiative and things like that, I think that there's some opportunity there to collaborate and certainly get ideas. Like Lieutenant Meister talked about with the recruiting consortium. I think some of the best ideas come when we all put our heads together and we don't pretend that we know the answers. So I think there's a lot of creativity out there, and we'd be willing to listen to that. And I think we'll continue to make some new progress under Chief Newdigate as we learn his vision. And I think you all will be excited at some of the direction that I've heard in some private conversations. So we hope to share more real soon.
Okay, thank you, Captain Zelms, and thank you, Commissioner Amberman. I have a virtual hand up by Councilman Berlucci. Councilman Berlucci, your mic is now open.
Good afternoon, everyone, and it's great to see you, Lieutenant Meister. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I just caught probably the last third of it, so you may have covered this topic in the beginning of your presentation, but I think that recruiting is one of the most critical discussions that we can have that relates to public safety. And I respect and admire the work that you and your colleagues are doing to improve recruitment and retention and be innovative with strategies. And I hesitated about whether or not to ask this question, but I think it's really germane to this conversation. And I wonder if you could take a moment to describe the impact that the discussions about removing qualified immunity and implementing a civilian review board with subpoena power and disciplinary authority would have on your recruiting and retention efforts.
Thank you, Councilman Berlucci. It's a very sensitive topic right now, especially in the law enforcement community. I think there's a lack of understanding of what qualified immunity actually means and what protections or what lack of protections it provides in its current form. Problem is, when you talk about removing qualified immunity from officers, that has a trickle effect into our recruiting efforts. I'm going to be very political about I'm going to be very sensitive about my response because this is an ongoing conversation internally as well as around the country. But I will tell you from a recruiting standpoint that if qualified immunity is removed, it will have a negative effect on recruiting. I have been told that by people who are interested in becoming law enforcement officers. I've heard that from families who want to support their children in going into law enforcement, and they have flat out told me that if qualified immunity is removed, they will not support their children in going into the law enforcement profession. So I am cautiously optimistic that people will start to understand what qualified immunity actually means, and we move away from that conversation. However, I know that if it does move forward, it will have a negative impact on our ability to recruit. And that's a generational family level discussion. So in not getting too deep into the weeds into that conversation, because I know it's a sensitive topic on both sides. Just having a sterile answer is yes, it will have a negative impact on recruiting. With the community review board, I haven't heard a lot of so-called negative feedback with regards to the civilian review boards with recruiting. What we are expecting and hoping is that the people who are placed on these review boards have extensive training in law enforcement policy, procedure, and protocols. They have some scenario-based training in what an officer faces on a daily basis. They have some legal training, and they are qualified to sit on these boards, and it's not a witch hunt, so to speak. So that's what we're hoping for. We believe that the people who are looking to implement the citizen review boards do have the community's best interests as well as the department and the city's best interests at heart. So we're hoping that the people who are on these review boards are of the highest quality and have the character and the dedication and the right reasons for being on these review boards.
Okay. Thank you, Lieutenant Meister. Thank you, Councilman Bellucci. I see, just want to take a moment to welcome Commissioner Taylor. He's joined the meeting. And I see a virtual hand up by Chair Nair Strickland. Chair Nair Strickland, your mic is open.
Yes, I think we've had Lieutenant Meister on the hot seat long enough, but I just wanted to say one thing, and that's that we have a student right here when we're talking about, we all feel how important the school resource officers are. And Commissioner Manco, Hannah, do you have anything to add to that, being a student?
Commissioner Manco, your mic is now open.
I believe they're really important in schools, even if like me, I don't get in trouble. They're just really nice to have, and you can always talk to them in the hallway about anything and ask them anything.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Manco. Okay, any more? I see a virtual hand up by Councilman Bellucci. Did you have more to add? Just want to make sure. Okay, all right, thank you. Any more questions or, oh, I see a virtual hand up by Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Anderson, your mic is open.
Yes, I did know that Lieutenant Meister did not want to get into the weeds, but I did just have questions, I guess, at the next meeting about what the negative impacts would be about the qualified immunity. Again, I understand if you don't want to get into the weeds now, but I'm also just very curious about what those other adverse effects would be to recruiting.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Anderson.
Commissioner Anderson, is it okay if she does answer that next meeting because we are our liaison, because we're now
of course
5:30 and we still have another hour's worth of business. So.
Yes, not a problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. I don't see any more virtual hands. So with that, I'll give the mic back to you, Chair Nair Strickland.
Okay. Thank you so much, Captain Meister. We're so very lucky to have you and Captain Zilms. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, we're going to go into committee reports, and I guess the chairman's report is up first. Let's see, I wanted to say, since I'm a member of the Citizens Committee on Boards and Commissions, along with Attorney Ingram, that we've been meeting, and I think we are going to have a questionnaire that goes out specifically to the chairs, but I'm of each board commission, and I'm asking that those chairs go back to their committee and or commission and get input as well, because as I keep saying, a chair bangs the gavel, well, usually, or it pushes a button in this case, and it really, it's the people that are doing the work. But it's going along. Secondly, the incident at the ball, you were sent a link to the report that was given to City Council, and I haven't had any negative feedback from that at all. So we're considering that as acceptable. I want to thank Rod Ingram again. We sent out letters of support to the General Assembly. The acting, I guess Assembly, what is she's Bob Mathias now. I forget her name, but you can unmute your mic if you
Right.
Debbie Bryan is our acting legislative liaison.
Yes, and the letters were just exquisite. Thank you so very much. I feel badly that my name is at the bottom, but thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you, Sir Roderick. We had a joint meeting of the HRC and the RAC on the 18th. Just quickly an update, if you don't follow what's happening to Preston, he is at UVA waiting to be approved for a lung transplant, and he still has one more step to go past, and then he can get on the list. But that's where he is, because he was such a major part of the joint. We did go over, and we had 3 goals that we set, and I don't think, Dominic, I don't think we got any minutes from the meeting. It was, if you're not there, we don't get them, so you're just gonna have to be there.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm working with the RAC staff liaison to get that information. So I am on top of that and following up with her and getting it. Yeah.
Those 3 goals, if that's all right, I'll find out and share them next month. And that leads me into, before we get the committee reports, if you do meet, January is a great time, or early February, to set some goals for your or mission statements for your committees. And with that, who has a report? I have in here bylaws committee. It's not on your agenda, but
Commissioner Burnsworth, your mic is open.
Okay. We had, based on the workshops and the retreat and the discussion of the onboarding packet, we removed the category of ad hoc committee and added back in task force. So what we are, after we reviewed it, it was clear that the definitions didn't change. It was just a matter of title. And so everywhere in the document that refers to ad hoc committee, Dominique is going through and changing that wording to task force. There was also a concern about wording for forwarding or assigning where a complaint to the HRC would go. And when we reviewed the document, nowhere in our document does it say anything about receiving complaints. It talks, the heading is concerns. And so what it is, I think it is leftover language among commissioners themselves, where we talk about receiving a complaint. We as commissioners really just need to police ourselves and talk about, and when we express it, and make sure when it's in our minutes that we receive a community concern or inquiry, and that we pass that along to the appropriate body. So we're just emphasizing that in our package for that it is we receive concerns and inquiries. Dominique is also, now we're at the point she's going to do a cover and a table of contents, and we're going to make sure that everything that we need, our bylaws, our the city council, word just left my head, Sylvia. So I have to help me.
Ordinance.
All those documents will be in one place shop, so that we won't have to go to various places to find them. They'll all be contained within the same document.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Barnesworth.
Thank you. Just real quickly, when I was thinking, Sir Roderick, I'd also like to thank Councilman Bellucci. He was the one that got us connected and to write the letters, and was instrumental in getting that done. He's been very active as a human rights liaison. Thank you, Councilman Bellucci. And moving on to our COVID task force, how appropriate that Ginger, I think you should report out anything that you would like to.
Vice Chair Jenkott, your mic is open.
Thank you. I'm continuing to report out the data that we received from the Virginia Department of Health. And what is new is Dominique did publish 2 days ago on our Facebook page the link to find out when the testing would be available. If you here for your group, if you watched the City Council workshop on Tuesday, you may have seen the presentation by Virginia Department of Health to Council, and I believe Council's grave concern that Virginia Beach has not been rolling out vaccines yet, as some of our neighbors have, and so that was quite prominent in that discussion. Today's message from the governor, the press release, he basically said Virginia just needs to do things faster, using his words. And I'll defer. Beatrice, do you have anything further to add to that?
Commissioner Amberman, your mic is open.
Yes, I do. And thank you for allowing me to share a couple of things. And as you know, there have been several meetings every week we have at least two meetings. And I just want to add that there are 66 health departments in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And evidently, every single health department is handling the vaccination in their jurisdiction. Unfortunately, only 11 out of the 66 have phased into the 1B phase of the vaccination. I just wanted to remind everybody that we have 3 phases. Phase 1 is healthcare personnel and residents of long-term care facilities. And we are at that phase. And I actually was surprised that actually we evidently Virginia and its website, Virginia Beach and its website, shared that they are going to be on that phase until the end of the month, which is pretty lengthy. So I don't know what the issue is there. And one of my recommendations is that we ask the representative of the health department to come and give us a presentation. Maybe there's some ways in which we can support the effort so that members of our community get vaccinated, faster. So anyway, phase B, which is the next phase, has been implemented in several jurisdictions, 11 of them, and a few of them in Northern Virginia. And that includes frontline essential workers, people age 75 plus, people living in correctional facilities. As I shared with you before, at the last meeting, the sheriff from the city of Norfolk was actually petitioning that they take into consideration the prisons and so forth to get vaccinated. So it seems like now that portion has been included in the next phase. And also included in that would be homeless shelters and migrant labor camps. And as I told you that, I lifted some of those as well. And then phase 1C includes all of us, and they're recommending that, of course, you go into that website and you activate, you basically, that you try to enter into that website so you can find out when your turn may be. And that is very important. I also wanted to tell you that evidently there are some websites that have been available for the community to register. And I just wanted to share the concern that many people in the community may not have computers or internet and so forth, or they're not. Sorry, so that is not me. So that is something that we have to take into account to make sure that there are different ways in which people with that type of access are able to be taken into consideration. And one thing they told us is that evidently some of the numbers that are being shared, like phone numbers and so forth, people are waiting over 2 hours in order for them to be, for somebody to answer to the questions, or for them to even, go ahead and register for, vaccination and so forth. So, but one of the things that I wanted to tell you is that the state is considering to have a web page, and they are going to be having them available in 5 different languages. BDH is constantly updating the guidelines in those different languages, and CDC, the Center for Disease Control, is launching a vaccination. But the thing that I've been hearing from across Virginia is that this is a very convoluted system. And so every jurisdiction is doing things in different ways, and they have different resources. So that is the reason that you find that we are not all in sync. And we just have to tell you that it is good to know that some jurisdictions are actually now in on the second phase. But the concern that I have and that I wanted to share with you is that the discussion was mentioned at our last meeting on Monday, that the state is considering recalling a vaccine that certain jurisdictions that are not moving them along, so that they can then, put them in the arms of people in other places where they are getting faster into getting those vaccines there. And as of now, there are over 11,000 providers, like physicians, that have applied to dispense vaccines as well. They're going to be giving us more information tomorrow. Another thing is that the Commonwealth of Virginia has partnered with all the local health departments, and operations, they say, need to be improved in those departments. And also, they have partnered with 150 community, independent, and chain pharmacies. And I guess, I don't know if I, yeah, let me see if I can have that. I think I'm entering some information there, because I'm including again the websites that we can use, so that you can find out in what phase we are in Virginia Beach. There is a link there, and then there is another link for any one of us to find out in which category we find ourselves in. And then there's also the 2 phone numbers that in Virginia Beach we can use to access our own Virginia Beach Health Department. But just to end it would be a good idea to have a conversation with the community can help our own health department, just to make sure that we improve the numbers, because I think it can be done.
Thank you,
Okay.
Beatrice.
Thank you, Commissioner Ammerman.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Ginger, for continuing those numbers. I just wanted to add real quickly to that just this past weekend, the Filipino American community, because we break it down by category, lost 4 people, and 2 of those people were young people, 41 and 54, who seemed perfectly healthy. And I had 3 family members, in-laws, but still 3 family members that this weekend went in, 2 went to the hospital, 1's at home. So it's all around.
I just want to offer, since I had sent out that link for that the questionnaire for finding out when the vaccine, you can get like I was saying, so I actually went ahead and, for anyone who hasn't taken it yet, I went ahead and took it for myself and my mother. And not only do they tell you what phase you are eligible for, you can submit your telephone number and your email address, and they will let you know when the phase that you're eligible for starts. So it's a nice little tool.
And actually, I wanted to share with you that in places like Arlington and Fairfax, Northern Virginia, of course, which they are already on the second phase, they actually are going ahead and they're providing a phone number or a web, page for people to register already, to start the registration for 1C phase of the vaccination. And another thing I wanted to ask, and maybe Ginger can, instruct me a little bit. So once you have the condition, do you report it to the Virginia Beach Health Department, or how is it done? Because I haven't seen any information about any of the new strains of COVID in Virginia. And then the other thing is the fact that actually, I think it is newsworthy, the fact that you had it previously and then you contracted it again. And I don't see that discussion or that, being shared with the community in a general sense.
Yeah, thanks, Beatrice. It's been very interesting, and we don't know a lot more than we do know. Some of my doctors are saying that I may have had a false positive in November, because at that time I was asymptomatic. But we don't really know for sure. The question you raise is very good about, can you contract it a second time? Some are saying yes, but again, all that research is not out, and I'm checking things daily. As far as how it is documented, when I did my first test back in November with my pre-ops and tested positive, that test information goes directly to the Virginia Department of Health. And it was 24 hours later that I received a phone call from the State Department reiterating that I had tested positive and to tell me what I could expect and what I should do. And basically, even in November, they were placing the responsibility for contact tracing on the individual. And so that is different than them going out and, making all those calls and everything. So I wish I had your answers, because if this is round 2, I certainly don't want to see a round 3. And there also is question about, if you've had COVID, when and if should you get the vaccine? And so I'm hanging in a limbo on that also, without answers. So anything that anybody reads with research that comes out, minute by minute, please let's share it all together. Thank you.
And And Ginger, just going back into the how the second strain was confirmed, and because I don't see a lot of reporting that Virginia has actually the United Kingdom strain or the South African or the Japan strain. So, and I'm concerned, especially with what you said, and I just wanted to lift this issue with the rest of us, because, a lot of people in the Latino community that have been essential workers, and they actually, many of them don't have internet whatsoever. So, and the reason I was asking is because if people are getting, eh, sick over this, and how is this information being collected, especially in populations that don't have the ability nor the resources to actually contact, the health department and so forth. And I just wanted to ask you, on this second time, did you receive, again, that contact from them, or how?
And of course, Ginger, you don't have to answer any of this.
Yeah, no, that's fine. but yeah, no, I just,
Yeah, I agree.
I just wanted to make sure that we know that we are actually having a lot of people in poorer communities too that may not be contacted. If people in our community that are educated and so forth we don't speak up, then it can be some things that are not being lifted up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Amberman. And thank you, Vice Chair Jancott. Back to you, Chair Neera Strickland.
I got a note. Carla has to leave, and she wanted to get her report, if that's okay, next.
Sure. Commissioner Heseltine, your mic is now open.
Thank you. Thank you very much for letting me leapfrog everybody. The law enforcement committee met in December. The minutes from that have already come out. Thank you so much, Dominique.
You're welcome.
I did receive a couple of queries from the commission and sent them on to Scott. He's already gotten back with me. I'm going to populate that tonight, send it out to the group. I know a doodle poll has gone out, so we're on track to have that discussion on the 19th. I'll get everything sent out to you guys, okay, so that tomorrow. But then we're on track to put the discussion on the 19th. So again, the timeline is we have the discussion on the 19th regarding our own concerns, questions about the use of force policies, and then we circle back with DPPD to finalize that.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Heseltine. And just to let everyone know, I did send out the link for the actual meeting at 2:30 on the 19th. All right. Thank you. And back to you, Chair Neera Strickland.
Thank you. We have our the beach. If you can go next. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Stevens, your mic is open.
How y'all doing? Biggest thing we were talking about at the beach was winter shelter, which is not called winter shelter this year. They did away with winter shelter due to COVID. But the Virginia Beach has 83 hotel rooms, and they just picked up another 35 hotel rooms that are moving the homeless to. Penn Ministry is handling that for the city. They took over a month ago. They're providing all the food. And being down at the oceanfront, I've only seen 3 or 4 people down there. So they're doing a good job of moving people off the street into the hotel rooms. Again, they're keeping them safer this way due to COVID. So they're not all in one room and one church. So it seems to be working at this point in time, and be a better way to move them hopefully into permanent shelter from there. We also talked about, I've been following the oceanfront. They're hiring the oceanfront city manager. They're putting on place, and they're going to be hiring 2 experts to work with the homeless. I've been following that to make sure they follow the protocol, and that reporting to Housing Resource Center and the oceanfront. I had a concern there, but I will be meeting with them in the next week or so to clarify everything they're doing with that. And I didn't know, Teresa, if you wanted to talk about the rent support and how it's being handled by the state.
Commissioner Stanley, your mic is open.
Sure, Mark. Just that there is plenty of money. It's coming down. The eviction protection has been expanded to be the end of January now. And so there are 200 workers supposedly that have been hired on the state level. So I asked a lot of questions around please getting a coherent flyer that's grassroots friendly, so that we can make sure that anybody that has that need, because it does pay rent in arrears and going forward. So, you know, we are definitely going to have a housing crisis issue as soon as eviction protection lifts, and we want to make sure that we can get that access to the community. So we're trying to push Beach in making sure to get that. And they said as soon as they have that available, they would get it out to Mark, me, and we'll make sure that all of you are aware of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Stevens and Commissioner Stanley.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we have a mental health task force report.
Commissioner Cubine, your mic is open.
Thank you. We were very happy to learn that the governor had put the $30.2 million for STEP Virginia back into the budget, which had been taken out last spring when the coronavirus was causing a lot of difficulties and we were worried about the economy. That money was put back in. We have continued to advocate for funding for STEP Virginia. It's very important. We spoke at the governor's regional budget hearings, which were in just last week, I believe. And along with the legislative collaborative table, we've been speaking to local legislators while they're still at home. I know they're in Richmond now, but we will continue to advocate for STEP. We did have our task force meeting on December 14th, and we had a good attendance, and we had reports from everyone who was there. And since we hadn't met since February, we had reports from everyone there on all their activities, and that included representative from Human Resources Department and NAMI Virginia, as well as Police Department. Andrea Brick serves on that committee. We reviewed what our major issues are for the mental health task force, and the number one is to ensure that we have a comprehensive mental health system of care that is effective and serves enough people, because Virginia is still ranked 41st in the nation in access to mental health services. So that's our kind of first issue of concern. Our second one is elimination of stigma, and we've worked some on that in the past and will in the future. And the next one was increasing need to increase support and advocacy for mental health funding and services and support. And we were hoping to do that through outreach to faith communities, and we're going to work on that. Another major issue that came up during the meeting, and I believe it had been suggested earlier, but the NAMI Virginia presented the problem with not enough housing. Of course, we know there's not enough housing, but NAMI is getting a lot of calls from family members and from people who have mental illness who just don't have housing and live in the streets. And so we decided to take that up as a project to work on. And also it was brought up that perhaps we should be doing a videotape of, about mental health and about mental health issues and perhaps about mental health resources. So we developed some action plans. One was that we have divided up a list of people that we called last year after the Mental Health Forum who had signed up willing to call our legislators in support of STEP. We're going to be in touch with them. For housing, Shelby Giles from Human Services is going to work with the Housing Support Services person with Human Services to get some accurate statistics about what's available and what are the needs for people with mental health problems. And then we hope to go from there to do more advocacy for supportive housing for people with mental health problems in Virginia Beach. We want to create a videotape, and we'd love some recommendations from you on what we should focus on. Of course, we're kind of thinking about focusing on mental health in general, and then what are some of the resources that are available, because I kind of find that people really don't know about the resources. So we're thinking about that. Andrea Brick, who is a CIT officer with the police department and has been for several years, has also done a lot of outreach to faith communities and has an education program that she has used before. And we discussed the fact that we really kind of feel like that our work with the faith communities, we'd like to do it in person rather than virtually. And so we're going to be working on getting that ready, but we'll wait a bit to do that. So those are some of the things we're working on now. And if you have any suggestions about what you'd like to see us doing, we'd love to hear from you now or anytime.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Cubine. Chair Nair-Schlicken, I know that we have limited time and some people who want to do some other reporting, but I just need to break in really quick, real fast, because I got something really important. Reminder, please get your annual financial disclosure statement into Terry with the city clerk's office by February 1st. She sent it out on the 4th of January, and she's been sending out reminders here and there on getting that done. If you haven't gotten it, please let me know and I will get the information to you. Okay, Commissioner Rivera, I see you saying you haven't gotten it. So I will make sure you get it tomorrow. I'll see, I'm not sure what email she has on file, but I will work to make sure that you get it. But anyone else, if you haven't gotten it yet, let me know. If you have gotten it, please work on it and try to get that in by February 1st.
We have had a commissioner to be removed because it was not filled out. And Teresa, you wanted to report out.
Commissioner Stanley, your mic is open.
Yeah, just a quick report to thank our two new state commissioners, Commissioner Morgan Ellis and Commissioner Hannah Mancall. They are joining the Season for Nonviolence Collective, which includes the Mayor's Youth Leadership in Action, as well as the community, some coming from the Pastor Leader Community Table. But anyway, this Season for Nonviolence Collective has decided on, and we're going to meet January 18th in partnership with NAMI and the Vibe Creative District, because the students have been lifting their concerns about mental health and mental wellness, especially where it concerns anxiety and depression. And so we think that the focus in the human rights lane to protect each other and try to erase the stigma of mental health concerns. So we hope to be presenting a project on the 18th and then doing our part to engage the students in making that happen. And part of that will be ending the silence forums that will be going out to students across the city.
Thank you. Commissioner Stanley? Okay, back to you, Chair Nair-Schlicken.
Thank you. You're going to just, anyone have anything else? You want to turn all the mics on so we can say goodnight and adjourn the meeting?
Okay, anyone have anything to say? Raise your virtual hand. Any old news, new news to add? Okay, I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Stevens. Commissioner Stevens, your mic is open.
I just want to thank you for running such a great meeting. I've been on so many this week that I've lost my mind on because they're not run so great, but thank you very much for doing that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. No problem. I think we were like almost a year into this now, so we've had a lot of practice. So thank you for you guys. I mean, you guys make it easy for me. So thank you very much. All right. Anyone else? I see a virtual hand up by Commissioner Cubine. Everyone say, are you just saying bye, or did you have something to say, Commissioner Cubine?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we have our next mental health task force meeting on January the 27th at 3 o'clock And we would welcome anyone to attend, especially the students that are interested in mental health issues.
Okay. Open everybody's mic and everybody say good night.
Yeah.
And
good night.
At 7 o'clock, we have the pastors roundtable. If anybody wants to
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, Commissioner Zoberman, did you have something to say?
Yes. I think it would be remiss not to mention the upheaval in D.C., the attack on Congress. It's a great lesson that our work here is essential, and we have also to focus on teaching what democracy is all about. MLK weekend is coming up. His birthday, too, is connected to the ongoing events, so we have to educate about the basics of American democracy, the fact that somebody who lives in Newport News and Hampton Roads had the sweatshirt with Camp Auschwitz staff. 1 million human beings lost their lives in Auschwitz. We have lots of work to do.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Zoberman.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? I'm opening mics. Everyone to say goodbye. Have a good night. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Right.
Birthday,
Safe.
Francis. Be
Happy
safe.
birthday. Everyone stay safe.
Birthday,
You too.
Princess.
Happy birthday. Thank you.
Meeting
Bye.
adjourned.